Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us yet again. My name is Arms Bumanlag for LePage Binder Real Estate, and very happy to join you on our live stream yet again. This is a weekly occurrence that we do here on LePage Binder's Facebook page. And this is where we sort of deep dive into some of our teams and some of the people who make LePage Binder Real Estate what it is. And, you know, we've said before that the business of real estate certainly is a very personal one. We're talking both residential and this time focusing on commercial. So in many respects, buying or selling a commercial property is just the beginning of that relationship with a client. And you should know that our LePage Binder Realtors have a personal stake in your property ownership journey. Our Realtors have stories to tell, they have advice to share, and they really do care about the communities that they live and work in. Very happy to focus on commercial this time around, and joining me on the live stream is Tim and Lex Ondejko from Ondejko Commercial Advantage. Tim and Lex, hey, thanks for joining us, and welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Arms. Yeah, thanks for having us. We're excited.
Look forward to chatting.
Well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the group. First of all, the Ondejko group. You folks, part of LePage Binder Commercial. Very interesting dynamic here. But first, Tim, I want to start with you. How did you get into real estate?
About 15 years back, I was in a career change. I come from running a number of businesses that I owned in the greenhouse business in Leamington. And it was something that always interested me. It was also an opportunity to be able to delve deeper into larger types of projects and business transactions. So it just appealed to me and where I could go with my next career.
Now, enter Lex. How did you know that you wanted to get into real estate, or was that sort of like, Dad's doing it, I want to get into it too?
So it was actually the one thing I said I would never do. And it would have been probably, 2.5 years ago now. I really felt called to it. And I think I spent maybe a week or so arguing with God saying, nope, not doing this. It's not happening. And he was like, no, that's what we're doing. So I went to school, and I'd been involved on and off for about 7 years now as Tim's assistant, and got licensed, and we've been working together ever since.
So that dynamic as father and daughter, I mean, you often see that, some of our team members have family members within their team. How does that work? How does that play out between the two of you? Lex, we'll start with you working with your dad.
Good place to start.
We've definitely we've definitely had our challenges, but I think communication is key when you're working with family, and also being able to set boundaries and kind of separating the family and the business aspect, so that you remember when you're at the office, you are colleagues, and you have to kind of set aside the personal. And I think especially over the last 3 to 6 months, we've probably really gotten in a better groove of working together and knowing how each other operates.
Tim, working with Lex and the fact that she's your daughter, I mean, the fact that she's jumped into this with you and is working so well with you, that's got to give you a sense of pride as a father, right?
Absolutely. I think that there's a big opportunity for Lex. She has an awesome skill set when it comes to business acumen and understanding clients. For commercial real estate, it's really about building the relationship with the client and building a solid base first, and then looking to see what their objective is and how you're going to go about solving the problems to be able to achieve that objective. So, it's the same in our own personal relationship in running our own business. So, we've been astute enough to know that when there's tension, how to be able to deal with it. And there still are times when there's stuff comes up. We do have a very great set of coaches. We embarked on a huge coaching program. We have some of the best coaches from around the world that we work with on a weekly and monthly basis. And they're helping us to be able to understand this relationship and how to be able to take our business and scale it both regionally, provincially, and nationally. So it's working well.
One final note as we talk about the family aspect, though, you address those challenges, which I think are so crucial, because you always you have that sort of methodology of continuous improvement. But I would say that there are advantages, right? I mean, there are many advantages to be able to work so closely as family members, but having that sort of synergy between knowing what Tim needs and knowing what Lex needs, and making sure those needs reflect what the client needs.
Well, and I think it's taken us some time to figure that out. We have two distinct different personalities, Lex and I. I come from an area where I'm a sales guy. I'm not really that detailed oriented. From my previous business experience, owning a number of greenhouse plants and having large numbers, hundreds of people that work for me, it was very easy to be able to just delegate all of that stuff out. In a smaller environment and with your daughter, it starts to become a little bit more challenging. And we had to work through those issues to understand what the positive skill sets of each of us were, and how we were going to be able to use those to be beneficial in our own relationship and also to our clients.
Yeah, Tim's very big picture oriented, whereas I'm very detail oriented. So once we kind of were able to figure out how that can work together instead of driving us into the wall or button heads,
Sure.
Once we figured that out, I think it's a great skill set to have two different mindsets like that, because you can do well in both arenas.
We're fortunate.
Now, one thing I wanted to talk, sorry, go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say, we're fortunate enough too that we are sort of have our own private office space. So, we have created an environment that fosters growth. We have some awesome support people around us, an accountant, some other administrative people that do support us as well, and all of that type of stuff. So it's a little bit different because we're in our own type of space, and the pandemic really has not affected us when it comes to coming to the office.
Well, that's something I wanted to talk to you about, because we've launched a show. You guys are episode 3 on this, and I'm happy to learn more about the brokerage, learn about the different aspects of Royal LePage Binder Real Estate, specifically commercial real estate. So let's open that up now and let's talk about that. I mean, what exactly is commercial real estate? Tim, did you want to take that?
Yeah, I think if you look at commercial real estate, I think from a big picture perspective, it's everything that isn't residential, and it has to do with the business. A lot of different sort of types. There's sales, there's leasing, but then there's a number of different practices within the sales and leasing aspect. A lot of our work is advisory at the beginning, and then we get to the transaction part, but there's a number of different practices. I'll just sort of list them off quick, and then we can maybe get into them, or Lex has some other comments. If you look at what practices there are in commercial real estate, the first one you really come up with is industrial. So that can be tool and die, manufacturing, metal fabricating, food processing, all that type of stuff. The second big one, and we're unique in our region, is really agricultural and greenhouse. I think throughout the whole pandemic, we have really, and in the last recession, we've seen that the greenhouse industry has flourished. So we can talk more in depth about that. I think that's a big driver of our economics in this region. Then you have office. The fourth one would be retail. There's multi-residential. And then you have another whole component, which is investment. So those are all different types of practices within the commercial real estate that take a specialized type of knowledge. And we focus strictly on commercial. We do not do residential deals at all. So we never take our eye off the ball for our clients. Lex, anything to add about?
No, I think that's a great summation of what we do here.
So when you take a look at, dealing with those clients from a commercial lens, I mean, obviously you were going through all those different things. And one of the things I wanted to chat about with you on that too, is the fact that you'll have that opportunity to dive into an area in the county that it continues to grow, pun intended, with the greenhouses. So we'll get to that in the next couple of minutes about what that means. But when you take a look at different things that are actually happening in the area, we've talked about on the show the residential boom. So it is very different then from residential real estate, right?
It is different. Lex, you want any?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're different. We have experienced growth, but I don't think to the same level maybe as residential. It's been more steady, whereas residential, you've seen it on a rapid increase, where ours has been a little bit more of a stable climb. Tim?
Yeah, I think, if you compare the increase in pricing in the residential and all the stuff that's going on there, and we're a little bit isolated from that, being in our own office space as well, but talking to other agents, the commercial real estate part, the industrial the agricultural greenhouse sector, the investment sector, those have been very strong practices. The verdict is still out on the retail and office space as we are going to come and roll out of the pandemic. I think, those have really, the negative aspects of what the pandemic has done for that has been mitigated by the government subsidies that have been coming and put in place. However, the longer this drags on from a commercial perspective, we look at it and we look across the parking lot at the hair salon, and, you just wonder how they can continue to be able to pay their leases and live their lives based on what the restrictions that have been put in place here. So, I think that in the next 18 to 24 months, we're going to see the impact that it's had on office and on retail. From an investment perspective, listen, Windsor is booming. It is a great place for people and investors to come out of the large cities, the GTA, Vancouver, because they're coming and they're getting a lot higher cap rate if they're buying an investment here than what they're getting in Toronto or those other areas. So, we've got a lot of drivers like that coming in, like the residential sector, but there's a lot still to play out here. So our clients need us more as advisors now going forward and sort of doing some projections on how do we help them? How do we solve their solutions and problems? And how do we make them not get behind the eight ball?
Yeah, I think Tim, and that's a great point too. I mean, I'm an Amherstburg resident myself, and I know that there are a lot of small businesses who have storefronts when you just go down the main strip here in Amherstburg, and a lot of those businesses are hair salons and hairstylists. And I'm thinking, even as we go, like, how do you continue to perpetuate some sort of income when you're locked down at this point, and you're starting to see a little bit more of those for sale signs, for lease signs up in the windows. But then on the flip side of that, like you said, and we've talked about this on the show, there's been this influx from people from the GTA, from Ottawa, from those areas, come down to Windsor to take a look at the area, and we've been in this sort of boom. So if you're looking at how that is really growing the region, I'd assume that the greenhouse industry continues to be very, very warm, or hot, dare I say, because you can see the greenhouses pop up, certainly in Kingsville and Leamington. Is that something that you've seen in your practice as well?
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think for us, we've been very blessed that we do work with these type of clients who haven't experienced significant effects, maybe so much as the hair salons, because they are considered essential. So, I mean, we do work with selling built greenhouses that are already there. But we also do a lot of land assembly for greenhouses that are to be built, which we're working on a couple of things right now. And so I think that's really become a lot bigger, just because so many people are focused on eating healthy now, and they want, for example, organic. So a lot of clients are building organic greenhouses, things like that.
I think, Arms, you bring up a good point. We're highly involved in that industry, from, like Lex said, right from land acquisition, land assembly, right up through construction, and also on resale. I think a good example, we were highly instrumental in Amherstburg. You have your first large organic greenhouse complex being built on the third concession. So, we were instrumental in doing that land assembly and going through all of the municipal type of work that needed to be completed. And it's also diversifying that base that Amherstburg, I think, can use. It's a clean, healthy type of industry that sort of changes the face of what, General Chemical and all of that type of stuff looks like. So we're trying to be able to expand that, to bring more of that greenhouse industry there, to diversify that commercial type of base that sits in that community. It will bring good paying jobs for supervisors and growers and all those types of things that will bring money into the economy. The nice thing about a greenhouse plant is that it's not a lot of transportation based in and out. They'll grow the crop and then it gets shipped out. So if it gets shipped from Amherstburg or Leamington and it's going say to Chicago or California, it doesn't really make a difference. So it's an industry that lends itself to the geographic location of Amherstburg. And we're working all across the province on projects like this. So, and like Lex said, people are at home, they're cooking, they're more interested in what they're putting in their food. Yes, it's been highly detrimental to, the food service industry and for the restaurants, but it's changing. People are more aware of what these types of products are, from, start out with seedless cucumbers and then mini cucumbers and then one bite cucumbers and, the range of peppers, now we're into strawberries. That is a high growth industry that's having trouble keeping up with the infrastructure for the growth.
Yeah, and I drove by there the other day, Tim, coming back in from the county, and I was surprised to see how quickly that was going up. It was really encouraging to see because, you said General Chemical. I remember when I was working in broadcast media when that closed shop way back when, almost 20 years ago. And, you take a look at some of these areas of land that can be developed to something that is meeting a need, certainly with a consumer base. But in your opinion, not only from the real estate lens, but certainly working the greenhouses. Leamington has done this well for a number of years, right? Tomato capital of Canada. And it seems that continues to branch out into sort of the cannabis sector, right? Amherstburg's getting the greenhouse sort of footprint. Is this something that we're much like maybe with residential real estate, that the greenhouse industry, we're finally catching up because of our geographic location?
Well, I think it's, first of all, we have a dynamic group of individuals that run and build these greenhouse plants. I think, the food business is substantially on an increase for greenhouse grown, pesticide, fungicide free type of product. People want to know what's on their food. So, the demand for tomatoes that are coming out of the field out of Florida or California, that has decreased substantially, and that there's great opportunity here for that. We're looking now at growing lettuce in greenhouses. The lettuce industry itself by dollars is bigger than all other produce and vegetables combined. So, there's salmonella scares for lettuce that's coming out of the fields. People, they want that growing under controlled environment conditions. So I think, you brought up a good point too, the cannabis sector. There's two different type of sectors with regards to greenhouses. I think what we've seen the cannabis sector almost on decline, with some of the large producers, publicly traded corporations having excess supply and growing capacity. So I see that part of the industry is quite stagnant as they figure out moving forward, opening bricks and mortar stores to be able to roll this type of stuff out from a retail perspective. So, but the big growth sector in the greenhouse industry is definitely vegetables. You'll see that in the next number of years expand exponentially.
And honestly, Tim and Lex, that can only, when people take a look at sort of these developments that are going up from a commercial lens and from a greenhouse lens, Tim, you touched base on this, that can only benefit this region. You'd mentioned about those high paying jobs. This is an influx to really our community infrastructure that we're going to see.
Well, absolutely. And I think, we have to look at it from the bigger picture perspective. There is also a lot of general labor jobs that people don't want to do, where migrant workers are brought in to be able to do that. However, there is a lot of these other types of jobs to make these facilities run. And, the greenhouse growers know that it's the people that actually make it run. Anybody can build a greenhouse and bricks and mortar. But, if your people aren't healthy, if you don't take care of your people, you really don't have a business. And I think that's the big message that sometimes gets missed in the media, which kind of is disheartening. You get a couple bad apples spoiling the whole barrel. And, that's how it gets painted with the brush through the media, where in general, 99.999% of these growers recognize, appreciate, and respect the people that work there, right from the migrant workers all the way up through their growers and CEOs. So those are the type of people and jobs and, dollars that can be driven to a community And I think sometimes there has to be a mindset actually from the community itself that it's willing to accept that. So those are sometimes struggles you face. And listen, we're building in Amherstburg now and we're looking for more growth. So, you know, I think if people understand what the benefit is that's coming their way, I think that they will, you know, not think that the largest part of it is the negative impacts that are coming. Lex?
It's funny, Lexington, that you should say that. I mean, one of the things that I pretty stringent on personally is I think when you're able to tell a story, I mean, you're supposed to report on the negative, and you can report on the negative, but I think equally you have to do your due diligence and report on the positive. And I think sometimes that sort of percentage is very much skewed in a different way. They used to say in media to me, if it bleeds, it leads. Well, yeah, but I think that if you can talk about the benefits, right, and find those real stories that, you know, how it's benefiting a community or individuals or a group of individuals, it's beneficial. And if you talk about expansion, you talk about growth. And one thing I wanted to talk to the both of you at, yesterday I was out in Tecumseh meeting with some of our donors with the Humane Society. And I haven't been out into the Tecumseh area off of Manning Road for a long time. And I was just did a double take as I'm driving down Manning Road. I couldn't believe the commercial. I just remember Sobeys at the corner of Manning and there. And then I mean the LCBO was there, sure. And then I know that they put the Tim Hortons and Combo Wendy there, but it seemed to me like it was a very, and I've said this before on the show, it was a very Mississauga type feel. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like where all the commercial development is coming up now. They've got a hotel there too. Are you seeing that from the commercial lens, that there's sort of this, I guess, mini metropolis being built in a Tecumseh Lakeshore area?
I think it's really exploded, especially in that Manning Road area. I'm kind of the same. I don't go out there very often, but I think it's exploded. I think that especially with everything that's going on with COVID, I think a lot of, again, people trying to get out of the cities and into somewhere where there's more space, where their money goes further, which unfortunately affects the residential market for people that have lived here. But I think it does at the end of the day bring more money into our city and helps with the growth in that way. But it is like a mini Mississauga, basically.
Yeah, I was just blown away. I mean, I just kind of did a double take, and I was happy to see sort of this influx in there. And then, you know, you've got more commercial positions or locations opening up. You're going to have to fill those places with positions, and then you're going to have to bring some housing down here, right? And work on that housing as well. I guess my next question for the two of you is, you know, the difference between sales in commercial real estate and leasing. What are the big differences on that?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's two sort of different components. It's two different type of mindsets sometimes that an owner of a business will take, and that's dependent on the practice as well. If you look at office and retail, there's a lot of leasing that takes place within the office and retail sector. If you look at the industrial sector, so to speak, there's a lot of more sale transactions probably than lease transactions currently. A lot of those entrepreneurs and businesses like to own bricks and mortar. That's kind of a little bit their retirement plan. However, I think what we're seeing a little bit of a trend where there's some sale leasebacks, and where the business owner can actually deploy that money a little bit better for a higher return within their business. Now, the last 6 months has been a little bit of a change because we've seen high escalation, especially in the industrial sector and the price of industrial buildings. It's just shot up because there is no inventory. So, you know, I think there's always a balance. There's always going to be sales and leasing. A lot of it comes from what our advisory practice kind of helps work a customer or client through to be able to see what best is for their business.
Yeah, for the goals that they're trying to accomplish. It's very specific to the customer, I would say.
Now, one of the things, Arms, I think that people don't really realize and is residential real estate moves pretty quick. Mm-hmm. Commercial real estate, our deals are all slower, longer, a lot of babysitting to be able to make sure you get through all the hoops. A typical conditional period on an industrial will probably be a minimum of 30 days up to 90, 120 days. And there's a lot of things that need to take place during the time frame. So what we're adept at is actually holding our client's hand and actually doing a lot of the work for our client. And I think that's where a lot of our success comes from. We manage all the way from advisory right through to transaction. So it's a little different when you, and that's why we focus specifically on commercial, and that way we don't take our eye off the ball.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, if you've got that longer period and you've got, obviously, there's more at stake, right? There's more to take a look at with what maybe the client needs. And I think as your team with the Ondejko group, you're able to really forge those relationships and make sure that you're meeting the client's needs. Because I think when you're looking for that investment, or if it's a sales or a lease, you want to make sure that at the end of the day that they're happy with the process, because it sounds like it is somewhat of a lengthier process.
Well, I think it's funny, Lex, you were talking about the 6 years. What did you say?
Well, yeah, I think first we are very blessed that once we build a relationship with a client, we typically work with them many different times and continue to help them. But there is one property that he was trying to get for 6 years from the sellers. They didn't want to sell, they wanted too much. And we finally got it, and it was a pretty big victory for him. We've also had some other instances in the greenhouse industry where he's really had to hold hands and help the client all the way through. And there was one deal, I printed out a little piece of paper and it said like crisis manager of the year. Because it takes a lot more to get these deals closed, because unlike it is in the residential market, there's lots of conditions, there's environmental you got to work through, there's financing. So it takes a lot more and the deals take a lot longer. But
I think the funny thing, Arms, that I understand and that we understand in the commercial real estate business is the deal really doesn't happen until the 11th hour, when all the 11th hour crisis happen. So you better make sure you're sitting in the seat and you're holding on to the ring.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I was just going to say, Tim, I mean, that's what your clients expect, right? I mean, you're with them along their way. They want to say, okay, we're at the 40-yard line. We got to make this a touchdown, right?
Yeah. Well, we're very blessed. Like Lex said, we have amazing coaches from around the world that we meet with every 2 weeks, and we're scaling and growing our business exponentially. And the next steps are almost, I guess, maybe for me, getting a little older, it's almost like, holy crap, do I want to go down that road? Do I want to get that big? But, you know, the clients keep coming. And if you do the job, they're going to come. You don't have to worry about the money. The money follows. The funny thing is, everybody goes, they think they want to be in the commercial real estate business. And they think that it's, you know, you make a lot of money and it's all sexy. But I'm telling you, it is in the trenches, mud and dirt and blood and guts.
Sure. I was just going to say, you got your sleeves rolled up, Tim. I mean, you've got to get in there, right? At the end of the day, I mean, at the end of the day, you're servicing your clients and your customers too. Hey, we got a few minutes left to go here on the show. If you're just joining the live stream or you're watching the rebroadcast of this, very happy to continue with our Real People, Real Stories, Real Estate live show series here for Royal LePage Binder Real Estate. My name is Arms Bumanlag. Very happy to chat and learn a lot about commercial real estate with Tim and Lex Ondejko of Commercial Advantage for Royal LePage Binder Real Estate. One thing I wanted to just kind of circle back on here, and I thought, I mean, certainly, you know, my position, I'm a work from home guy primarily. I am on site about 1 or 2 days a week, but I mean, my home office and studio is where I'm at. Do you see that being not necessarily an issue, but certainly a rethinking of how businesses will continue to operate post-pandemic in 2022, 2023, as the workforce is sort of, I don't want to say skewed, but there's going to be some sort of reimagining about how people work?
Yeah, I think really what this pandemic has done is showed that there's two types of people when it comes to ways that they like to work. Some people have really discovered they love working from home, and if they're given the choice, they'll continue to do so. And then there's the other group of people that's learned they really hate working from home and they would love to get back in the office as soon as possible. And so I think for companies that have a proportion of people who want to get back in the office, there is a chance that they may need to expand their space in order to provide for whatever social distancing things stay in place. And then if the company has a lot of employees that prefer to work remotely, then they might downsize. It really, I think, depends on your workforce.
Absolutely. It's also arms. It depends on what the practice is too, right? And kudos to all the frontline workers, to the nurses, to the doctors, to all of those people trying to work through these things. I think sometimes what we forget is there's frontline workers at all the stores like Zayres, all that type of stuff. People forget that frontline workers work in the greenhouse. They pick the tomatoes every day. They pick the cucumbers. They pick the peppers. They pack it. They get it out the door. You know, they've been trying to navigate through the pandemic as well with all types of different changing government regulations or how they want to see them respond to this. So, you know, we are blessed that those people have stayed there, going out of their house every day, going to the greenhouse, going to the grocery store to make sure as a country that we're fed. Because without that, you know, what do we do? But I'm in agreement with Lex. We'll see how the office rolls out here. The two hard practices that will be hardest hit will be the office and will be the retail. So it's yet, that tale is yet to be told, but I don't think it's going to be pretty.
I just wanted to say what a pleasure, and thank you for joining me and our audience here to sort of illuminate not only your relationship as a team, but you know, what you continue to do in the commercial real estate realm. And I always ask this of our team members who come on: what is your feeling? How do you feel about not only Windsor going forward, but working with Frank Binder and the team at Royal LePage Binder Real Estate?
Well, I think we've been very blessed. We've been at Royal LePage for 4 years now, and we love it. Frank is amazing. The people here are amazing. I'm very blessed to have made a lot of great friends through this, and it's nice we can kind of get together and just talk shop, but also relax. And I think we're very blessed to be at Royal LePage.
I would agree, Lex. You know, I think that there are different types of personalities, and we're blessed that Frank is interested in every single one of his salespeople and agents and how to be able to help them to get to their next level, and all in a trustworthy and straightforward fashion. We run our operation, our business that way. We're straightforward. We will say it the way it is, and we will say it with tact, but we'll say it in no uncertain terms. And I think that's what our clients appreciate, that, you know, they're not sitting there wondering, that we have those in-depth conversations. And we're blessed to be with Royal LePage Binder and Commercial Group and scaling. And there's other things that to come with our team here shortly in the next number of months that we can make some announcements a little bit later.
Ooh, exciting stuff. So hopefully you guys will hop back on and join us here on the show. I think I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot too. So hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a lot of fun. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Thank you, Arms.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank you as well for making some time. So folks, very happy to welcome and celebrate the success of Tim and Lex Ondejko from the Ondejko Group. They're a father-daughter team, part of our team at Royal LePage Binder Commercial. Tim is a broker, Lex is a sales representative, and we would love for you to check out their website on our website too. And don't forget, we'll be back next week with another great Royal LePage team member here on the program. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, you can like us on social media for all the updates on Facebook and our new LinkedIn page as well. And we'll be back next week with more from Royal LePage Binder Real Estate.